Sony just unveiled the new FX30, the newest and smallest cinema series camera, which is even more compact and cost-effective than the well-known Sony FX3. Get cracking as we reveal details on the all-new FX30 series, which has not just closed the gap but has promising cinematic control. A 4K Super 35 tiny cinema camera that provides cutting-edge cinema line features to a new generation of producers is the newest addition to the Sony FX lineup. The FX30 is a Super 35 version of the FX3 with the tiny form footprint and cinematic build quality you'd expect from the FX series and an APS-C sensor added. The FX30 was a fantastic addition to Sony's increasing portfolio of mirrorless cinema cameras when it was released in October 2022 for $1,799. With a 26-megapixel APS-C backside illuminated CMOS sensor capable of oversampling footage from 6K at 4K over 120p with a 1.62x crop and 4K up to 60p recording. Given the availability of 10-bit 422, 420, H.265 or H.264 AVC files, video capture possibilities are as you might anticipate. What's exciting is that now documentary makers, filmmakers, vloggers, and other content producers can employ the Sony FX30's log shooting modes, dual base ISO, user-imported LUTs, 4K 120 frames per second, and Full HD 240 frames per second. The Sony E-mount on the 20.1 megapixel CMOS sensor FX30 further enables filmmakers to use the entire Sony lens portfolio. The FX30 has a small functional design with a flat top and threaded accessory attachment points. It also has a heat dissipation structure. Additionally, there is a handy built-in stereo microphone and the multi-interface shoe or microphone connection on the camera, which can be used to directly connect extra microphones. Moving further, a 4-channel recording is made possible by an extra handle that adds XLR audio inputs and a 3.5mm stereo tiny connector, where the XLR handle is reportedly sold in a package with the FX30 for $2,200 US. If you want to go further, you might use Sony's Catalyst software, which leverages the built-in gyro metadata from the video file metadata to digitally correct and stabilize your film. Stabilization is handled both digitally and mechanically, delivering stable and smooth stabilized shots when shooting. With that said, let's now talk about its features in detail. The sensor is, of course, the main component. It is Sony's highest resolution APS-C sensor at 26.1 megapixels. Interestingly, the FX30 would use it first rather than a camera from the A6000 series, whereas the electronics are on the back of the sensor because it is backside illuminated or BSI. On the other hand, to optimize the speed of data readout, it is not stacked. Instead, the processing circuit is directly coupled to the sensor. In 2010, Sony released the Nex3 and Nex5 along with its E-mount. Both of these cameras used APS-C sensors, and Sony has been making lenses for this mount for both full-frame and APS-C sensors for the past 12 years. Sony officially added the E11mm f1.8, E15mm f1.8G, and EPZ 10-20mm f4G lenses to their lineup of APS-C lenses. The FX30 is compatible with a wide variety of lenses, and it may even offer Sony's APS-C E-mount lenses a fresh lease on life. Further, the camera is all you would anticipate in terms of photography in some respects while falling short in others. When taking still pictures, the sensor's sensitivity range increases to ISO 102,400 from ISO 125 to 32,000. You can use the full 26.1 megapixel resolution for RAW and JPEG photography. You have access to every type of autofocus capability imaginable, including animal and bird AF. However, there is none for the rate of continuous shooting. The FX30 can take only one shot. Additionally, it lacks a mechanical shutter, which might not be the best option for shooting moving subjects and has no flash options. Without a doubt, the camera is a Sony Cinema model rather than an Alpha one. We won't cover all of the FX30's cinema parameters since there just isn't time for all of them here. Instead, we'll focus on the most notable ones and those that, in our opinion, make it a compelling camera for aspiring filmmakers. So, the FX30 can record video at a maximum frame rate of 120 frames per second in 4K or 240 frames per second in Full HD. This is perfect for individuals who wish to film slow motion, which is currently popular with many YouTube videos in a cinematic style. The quality that can be obtained for more common frame rates with internal 4K 10-bit 422 recording may be more significant. Thus, utilizing the camera's full-size HDMI mount output, users who want to push the limits of the device can record 16-bit RAW footage to an external recorder like the Atomos Ninja 5. As can be expected, a wide variety of Sony picture profiles can be used, including S-Log, which will aid in utilizing the camera's full 14-stop dynamic range. You can upload LUT profiles to the camera, much like with the most recent firmware 2.0 update for the FX3 and the Sony Alpha 7S III. You may also achieve a variety of cinematic styles and hard-bake them right into your movie by applying these to Slog 3 footage. For those who prefer a short workflow, this is fantastic. However, you might utilize LUTs from your favorite designers to imitate their aesthetic or develop your own. Moreover, if you like, you can apply the LUT to the S-Log footage when you edit the video on your computer to assist you to get appropriate exposure. Sony's S-Cinetone profile is always accessible for people who don't want to get too involved in color grading. And now let's talk about stabilization using steady shot, which is a crucial component here. This is because the FX30 may use optically stabilized lenses in addition to having a 5-axis stabilized sensor. Then, active steady shot, which dynamically adjusts the region of the sensor being sampled to account for movement at the cost of a tiny reduction in the field of view, can be used to make this even more effective. Additionally, the footage may be loaded into Sony's Catalyst Browse software, where the camera's gyroscope data can be used to perform stabilization in post. Once more, the field of view is sacrificed, but you may choose how harsh you want the stabilization and crop to be. Then comes the breathing adjustment, which changes the image frame dynamically to maintain the same field of vision when a lens is focused, and is a useful feature of the FX30 that the FX3 lacks. Sony Catalyst Browser software can also be used in post-production to stifle breathing. Built-in 3.5mm microphones and headphone jacks are available for audio as well. Meanwhile, an optional audio interface handle is available, which mounts to the multi-interface hot shoe on top of the camera using two 3/4-inch screws that are inserted into the sockets on the top plate of the camera. It adds two XLR connectors and the appropriate gain controls for 4-channel audio in addition to having a mount for a microphone. It is a great addition for professional filmmakers, comparable to the audio inputs on high-end film cameras. However, beginners might do better with a Rode VideoMic Pro or a Sony ECM B10 microphone. As we already discussed, the FX30's body is nearly identical to the FX3's. The name badge is different, and the FX3 has a destination-marked full frame behind the lens mount. In contrast to the FX3, all 3/4-inch sockets and the strap lugs are now anodized blacks. The absence of the IR remote receiver on the hand grip and the self-timer LED on the FX30, which have been replaced with the camera's tally light, are the other less obvious outward changes. The FX30 is a large cuboid with a hand grip, therefore it would be unjust to call it a brick. When compared to a still camera, it is bulky, but as a camera for filmmaking, it is the perfect minimal setup, especially with the 5 points where filmmakers may add accessories. You can use the camera without a cage even if the choice is there with so many FX3 cages readily available. While the architecture is comparable to that of a Sony Alpha body, there are a few oddities. The power switch is now located on the top left of the camera's back instead of next to the shutter button. Instead, a zoom control is located near the shutter. If you use power zoom lenses like the APS-C ones Sony recently introduced, this is fantastic. Without touching the lenses, you may zoom them in and out. Thankfully, the FX30's menu is the most recent Sony Alpha version, making it compatible with the FX3, A7S3, A7 IV, etc. In short, the menu is easy to navigate, and conveniently, you may choose menu items without using the control dial or buttons by using the articulating touchscreen. As for a final verdict on the camera, this is a cinema camera, in case it wasn't clear. It is not advised to use it for still photographs if that was your intention. Of course, you could snap a few backstage or reference photos, but the handling, lack of a viewfinder, and continuous shooting mode make it unsuitable for any real use. Additionally, the Sony FX30 offers good value for money for £2,100. Compared to the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K and 6K, it is more expensive. Although the Pocket 6K shoots in 6K and the Cinema 4K only employs a 4/3 sized sensor, neither camera can match the Sony FX30's 120 frames per second or its autofocus capability. But the Sony ZV-E10 with its APS-C sensor and other cameras, including the Canon M50, are likely better choices if you intend to document your travels or use the camera for everyday vlogging. You guys, that's it for today. Hopefully we've covered everything. Please let us know in the comment section below if there's anything we overlooked. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Until then, take care.